In this episode, we're going to be talking about self-love and falling in love with yourself. I don't mean that kind of, oh my goodness, look at me, I'm so amazing kind of love. I'm talking about healthy, practical, grounded, and just pure, divine, basic love. Stay tuned. It's not selfish. It is definitely not selfish for you to have a healthy, loving relationship with yourself, who you are. It is absolutely imperative for you to build a strong connection with yourself. And in my little healing journey, I mean, we're all constantly healing, so it's not like it's over yet. It's constantly happening until I think next life and next life. What I've also realized is that, and this was from Grant, my love, he's taught me to get to know myself. I didn't know myself. I was constantly, in my previous life, putting other people ahead of myself, putting other people's feelings ahead of myself. I'd get to know my friends, my husband, my children, before I even knew myself. I didn't know who I was. Yes, sure, I knew my favorite color was green, but I didn't know how it felt for me living in the present of when I stepped on the green grass, how that made me feel. When I looked up to the sky, how I felt. When someone's horrible to me, how my reaction is. I would automatically just shut down. It was my way of dealing with things. I just shut down and like not even deal. Do the ostrich thing, put your head down into the ground and not deal. Why are my reactions like that? Why do I react to certain things the certain way that people say things? It's because I didn't really know myself. I didn't know, also what happens is that you've got a pressure, you become like a pressure cooker, because I'm a very much of a passive aggressive, which I think that a lot of you that are listening to this can understand, is that something will spark something in you and you won't deal with it immediately because you don't want to upset the situation. You don't want to upset that person. You don't want to come across as being argumentative, or so you don't say anything, and then something else happens, and then something else happens, and then something else happens, and then eventually you either explode or you burst into tears, and then you are depressed for days. Well, this is what happened to me. Maybe you can relate. And then I'd be down in the dumps and so upset and can't understand why such a little thing that happened has made me feel so upset and for so long. And also I put that down because I didn't know myself. I didn't give myself the time of day to realize what it is that's important to me, why things upset me, and why I react to the way that things do. So these days, I've gotten to know myself. Like when you go on a date with somebody and you ask that person, where do you come from? Why do you like this? What's your favorite color? What's your favorite song? What sort of music are you into? You get to know that person. I spent a lot of time in my healing journey of getting to know myself. I realized that I actually quite like classical piano. We went away to Sun City about 2 years ago, and we were very, very spoiled. We stayed at the Palace. It was Grant and my two boys that came with us, and we walked in, and the two boys just looked up and they looked around, and it was just so beautiful and it was just so lovely, and I allowed myself to stand there and take in all of these feelings. And then we stayed in a beautiful room and we went to the Valley of the Waves, and the next morning there's a beautiful flight of stairs that come down, and at the bottom there was a man playing the piano. And I just got washed away with all of this emotion, and I just stood there, and the sound was just, it sang to my soul. I always thought that classical was, my auntie used to listen to classical, and it sounded like it was a thing for older people. And I realized there and then that classical piano sang to me. I didn't. In all of my 30-odd years of living, I didn't know it. So now every now and again I tune into the classical piano. I haven't really, listened to the other stuff, but the piano, because it invokes an emotion inside me, I like it. Now I know Jane likes that kind of music. Before, I didn't have the time of day of even wanting to know what kind. Oh yeah, that song came on the radio. Okay, yeah, that's a nice song. Or I listened to Limp Bizkit, all that, some of that angry stuff when I was a kid, because that made me feel like I could be fine. And or Marilyn Manson, that beat was awesome. I still listen to some of that, yes, definitely. But I found out that I liked classical piano, and I've got some on my Spotify. When I feel like it, I turn it on and I listen to Bach and Beethoven, and it conjures up the most beautiful feelings. So, what I could say to you is, how have you gotten to know yourself, not only about music, but why you like certain paintings? Sometimes we walk past these shops that sell these beautiful paintings, and I never before actually took the time to stop and look and feel at some of these paintings. I think it was in Sandton City the one day we were walking past, and they had one of those, or Rosebank. Anyway, it was one of those shops that sell paintings. And there was one painting, and I actually stopped and I had a look at it. It was a little farmhouse, and it's got a mole watermill in the background, and just the colors came through, and I just stopped and I allowed myself to feel that feeling that came through. Just little things like that, taking some time to stop and be within Jane, feeling what Jane feels, listening to what Jane likes to feel, not at the detriment of anybody else. I'm not being ugly to anyone else. I'm not being selfish. I'm just allowing myself to get to know me. Another thing that I think is rather important is when you wake up in the morning, the first things that you say to yourself. So as I said earlier on in the show, is that I used to berate myself terribly. I had mother's guilt, partner guilt, daughter guilt, you name it, I had it. I used to be, wow. I actually don't know how I lived with myself for so long. And in the mornings, I think, is the most important time. It sets the tone for the day. It aligns all the things. If you wake up and you're in a bad mood and you project that onto everything, 9.5 times out of 10, the rest of your day is going to be cuck. It's not going to be a nice day. What you do when you wake up first thing in the morning is you realize, you say the magical words to yourself. You can say, I live in a world of magic. Or I feel joy and contentment. I am happy. And the little things that you can say to yourself, of how the little terms of endearment, like how you would to your sweetheart, I love you, I feel happy, well done on where you've gone to, well done on how far you've come. You don't have to put yourself under pressure. A little bit of pressure is good, but just be careful of the way that you speak to yourself. So the little compliments I think that you give to yourself is very, very important. How you speak to yourself. And yeah, I think that's about it. Falling in love with yourself is it's one of the most beautiful things to have. Having some time to yourself also. I know that being a mother, it's very difficult. I can't even go to the toilet and have a poo without the door being banged on or opened, whether it's my dog or my children, but you love them. But even if you just get up a couple of minutes earlier in the morning, go and spend some time, center yourself, collaborate, realize that you are blessed, count your blessings. In the car on the way in the mornings, I always chat to my children, and we have all got to find 5 things that we are grateful for, because it's easy peasy. And it also sets the tone for the day. It creates love in the environment. They've become a lot more grateful for what they do have. And then we also got goals. So you also think about what you want to have and where you want to be. And because I've been able to have this good relationship with Jane, with me, I've been able to project a much better relationship to my children. And hopefully, one day when they have children, the cycle can continue and they can have a good relationship with themselves, and then they'll be able to transfer that good relationship onto their significant other and to their children. Thank you very, very much for taking the time to listen. Really do appreciate it. Please like and subscribe or comment down below if you'd like me to get back to you. Really appreciate it, guys. And be well with love and light. Thank you.